So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Caoimhe Kenny and I'm the Director of Marketing for the American Board of Wound Management. I'm delighted to welcome you to our session, Everything You Need to Know About Getting ABWM Certified. I am joined today by our esteemed ABWM board members, Dr. Alistair Virus, Dr. Ed Mahoney, and Dr. Kirk Grantham, who will be answering some of our most frequently asked questions about ABWM's wound care certifications. So board members, if you'd like to quickly introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Ali Virus. I'm a general surgeon on the Big Island of Hawaii and have practiced near exclusively wound care for the last many years.
Hi everyone, I'm Ed Mahoney. I'm a physical therapist. I'm the exam chair for the ABWM exams. I have been a PT for, how long have I been a PT? For 18 years, and I've been certified through ABWM for 15 of those years. So I was first certified in 2005 and my recert in 2015. So welcome, thanks for joining us on a Friday afternoon.
Hi everyone, I'm Kirk Grantham. I'm a family medicine physician. I've been practicing wound care exclusively for 7 years and also participate on the exam committee for the American Board of Wound Management. I practice in Shreveport in Bossier City, Louisiana, and long-term care centers.
Great, thank you. So in terms of the format for today's session, we'll spend the first 10-15 minutes going through some of our most frequently asked questions regarding ABWM certification, and then we can spend the rest of the session answering audience questions. So please feel free to pop any questions you have for our board in the chat box, and we'll hopefully have time to answer them all towards the end of the session. Just to note that this session is being recorded and will be available in the ABWM virtual booth for the next 7 days as part of the on-demand portion of the conference. Okay, so let's get started. We'll kick off with Dr. Mahoney. Could you give us a little bit of background on the American Board of Wound Management and why it was initially set up?
Sure. Yeah, it's actually an exciting year. This is our 25th anniversary. So it was founded in 1995. At the time, it was the American Academy of Wound Management. It's founded by 3 physical therapists with the goal of, they wanted to administer certification exams that elevated the standards of care across the continuum of wound management. And the ABWM board has continued that goal. They dedicated to an interdisciplinary approach to promoting not only prevention, but care and treatment of acute and chronic wounds. So we tend to consider our certification to be the gold standard in the field of wound care certifications. And we're part of an elite group of organizations that are certified and accredited by the National Commission for the Certifying Agencies, or the NCCA.
Great, thank you. Dr. Grantham, could you speak a little bit about the 3 certifications offered by ABWM and what specialties are eligible to apply for them?
Yes, I'd be glad to. We offer 3 different wound care examinations. Our original most popular is the Certified Wound Specialist, or the CWS exam. To be eligible for any of the exams, you need at least 3 years of wound care experience and a full and unrestricted license. CWS exam is open to osteopathic doctors, podiatrists, medical doctors, nurse practitioners, PAs, PTs, registered dietitians, or registered nurses. We also have the Certified Wound Care Associate exam. This is open to other healthcare professionals such as LPNs and physical therapy assistants. And we finally have our Certified Wound Specialist Physician exam, which is designed for medical doctors, osteopathic doctors, and doctors of podiatry.
Great, thank you so much. Dr. Virus, for you as a physician and a wound care provider, what do you feel are the main benefits of being ABWM certified, and what are the benefits for your practice?
There are some very specific benefits, and certainly employers or future employers might be impressed, should be impressed by your certification. and therefore it could relate to being employed at all or a higher salary potentially. But I think the fundamental, this is a often asked question, is, you know, why should I bother? Because there are some competing certifications. Why should I bother to do this? And I think the fundamental thing is recognizing that there has been an explosion of knowledge in the wound care field in the last 20 years or so. And if you become certified by the ABWM, you are demonstrating to the world and to yourself that you have a mastery of that body of knowledge. And I think that's really fundamental. If you're setting yourself out as an expert in wound care to the world, I think you should have a mastery of that knowledge, and certification demonstrates that you do. So I think that's the most fundamental thing, is that you're showing you're up to date, and going along with the, you know, the ongoing certification and maintaining your certification, you're staying up to date, and all those around you who work with you will know that, and that is a good thing.
Great, thank you. Dr. Mahoney, where can candidates sit for the exam? Approximately how many testing centers are there?
That's one of the nice parts of the exam certification process, is we have exam testing centers throughout the country, hundreds of exam centers, and our exams are administered through our testing partner at their sites and their partner sites. So they're very high quality, secure, quiet, extremely conducive to a successful testing experience. Outside of the United States, we do have international testing, keeping in mind that the test is still the American Board of Wound Management, so it's not tailored to, say, specific regs and rules in whatever country the person is in. But our testing vendors do have international sites that are available. But honestly, I would recommend, if you're in that position of being outside the United States and are interested in it, to contact the American Board of Wound Management directly, and we can help guide you in the right direction with finding the right location, you know, making that process as smooth as possible.
Great, thank you. Dr. Grantham, once a candidate has passed the exam, what are the annual renewal requirements? And is there any continuing education required?
Yes, there is a minimum of 6 hours of continuing education in the field of wound management. And you know, this is required every year to stay certified. And there's also a $150 annual renewal fee.
Great.
Eva, could I pause for a second and try to answer Ms. Beth Roku's question about, is there no online testing offered during the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we don't. All of the exams are offered at testing centers because they have very stringent exam security practices, and validates the security of our exams, as opposed to, you know, if everything was out there, you know, without the ability for us to proctor it adequately, you know, we'd have so many exam security nightmares that it's always been under close observation. But I do understand the question. I can understand it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So Dr. Byras, how often do ABWM diplomates need to recertify, and why is recertification required by the ABWM?
Like many aspects in the field of medicine, nursing, recertification is required every 10 years. But during that 10-year period, you have to not recertify, but you have to up your you have to renew your license or your certification every year. And part of that is the CME certification, certifying that you have actually attended courses or taken courses or read journals and documented your reading of this, to ensure that we're all staying up to date with the knowledge field, which is constantly advancing.
I think, again, to add a little bit to that, one interesting part, and I'm kind of just following the chat to answer Lori's question, we do have nurses that fit both, that are qualified for the CWS and have elected to take the CWCA in the past, and now when they've come up for their recert have taken the CWS and have done well. You know, I think that's the biggest group, if I'm not mistaken, of our CWSs is the nursing population, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And I would say, Lori, to answer your question a little more specifically, yes, long-term care combined with a wound care center would I would think suit you well for that.
Absolutely.
And with the 10 years experience, Laurie should do well.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, Dr. Mahoney, once people are certified, are there other ways that they can get involved with the ABWM?
Yeah, that's actually when it gets fun. The stressful part's taking your test. And unfortunately, that's sometimes the only part people recognize us as, is we're the testing thing, that we're the center. But there are so many great opportunities. So we are primarily a certification board, but through that, our goal is to promote wound care excellence. As a result of that, we've developed some programs. One is our ambassador program, which is relatively new. And the idea is we can promote the ABWM throughout the country, and then more importantly than that, promote proper wound care for the patients that ABWM certified practitioners treat. From the ambassador program, we also have exam committee, which is probably our most central component of making a solid exam. That's all volunteer as well, as is our board. Our entire board of directors is volunteer organization who's just very passionate about seeing that through. So one thing that we found already, although I told you the ambassador program is relatively new, we've already seen dividends, not only in local involvement, but ambassadors transitioning, finding out about ABWM from a local event, becoming an ambassador, and now recently transitioning onto our board of directors. So it really does offer a lot of amazing growth potentials for you personally once you are certified.
I want to add into that if I can. Ed, as you know, is the chair of the exam committee, and I've worked with Ed and Dr. Grantham on the exam committee for about 6 years. And I have to say, it really has been one of the single most rewarding and fulfilling professional experiences in my entire career to spend a day or two, whether online recently or at actual meetings with a group of folks who are interested solely and as much in wound care as I am. Has just been incredibly fulfilling. You know, the point of the exam is not to try to figure out what is going to trick people. We spend a lot of time going through what is the evidence for this answer. Do we all agree as subject matter experts that this is appropriate? And we research it and come up with questions that will show that if you can answer them properly, you're showing that you have the knowledge. We're not trying to trick people with it. It's really a rewarding experience. I recommend it highly to anybody who gets involved with ABWM to try to seek out the exam committee.
Thank you, guys. So Dr. Grantham, are there any resources candidates can use to help them prepare for the exam?
Yes. In compliance with national accreditation standards, the ABWM does not promote or endorse any particular review materials or courses. We do offer exam content outlines and also offer practice exams compiled from past examination questions. There's many review materials that have been independently developed. In our partner organization, the American Board of Wound Management Foundation does list some study materials available for the exams, and you can find a list of those study resources in the certification resources section of our booth.
Great, thank you. Dr. Byras, what are some of the main eligibility requirements to sit for ABWM certification exams?
Number one is you need to be licensed in one state at least, and in the United States, and in any states in which you practice, and have an unrestricted license. But the main thing is that one of the most fundamental things, you have to have 3 years of experience in wound care. It does not have to be your primary responsibility, but you have to have 3 years of practicing wound care, and that is demonstrated by self-attestation. Plus, we do ask that you have 3 letters of support or reference from other folks who've observed your work or worked with you.
Great. Perfect. Okay, so that's it for the questions that we have prepared. I know we've answered some of the attendee questions as we've gone through. I don't see that there's any that we've missed. If anybody else has some questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Oh, I see one here. Cindy Cooper asks, what are the major differences between the CWS and the CWCA? If anyone would like to take that.
The CWCA is a little bit, honestly, I'll back up and I'll say that's one of the trickiest ones to write for because it's such a diverse group. That one tends to be targeted more for the LPN, PTA, some codas, that type of, there are some nurses that take that. There could be a PT or whatever if they wanted to. But the CWS targets a little bit more of the evaluation at a higher level, I would say, than the CWCA does, because figuring that person is probably not having to do any kind of diagnosis. So they are responsible for, still, you would think they would know the interventions and what's a safe protocol to do something, but it wouldn't be select the correct dressing, you know, between things in a similar dressing category, for example, or how to best perform this diagnostic test. It may be more, why would you be doing this diagnostic test along those lines? So they're very much designed to be a continuum building, as opposed to, like if you notice in our logo, they're next to each other. It's not that one's above the other one. So we do value each of them equally. They're just designed to be targeting different professions, not a hierarchy in any means.
Exactly.
Great, thank you. We have another attendee asking why you would choose ABWM certifications over some of the other certifications that are available.
Well, I think the bottom line is that not all wound care certifications are created equal. And the ABWM has the original, it's been around the longest, and it is certified by, and I'm not going to get this name right, Ed, the national body that certifies certifying agencies, whatever that is called. And we are the premier one that is certified. But I think that the single most important thing, I mean, there are other good groups that take care of wound care, obviously WOCN, the nursing group, but what makes the ABWM stand out is that we are really multidisciplinary, just like Ed talked about the CWCA, the CWS, and the CWSP. We have different certifications for where you are in your training or your experience, and we try to really ensure that this is a multidisciplinary field, which is obviously what wound care is. Multidisciplinary, can't be done otherwise.
Great, thank you.
If I could add to that, I think one of the biggest benefits I've gotten out of the CWS, it's not the letters after my name in an official sense, it's the unofficial networking that I've been able to develop. Like you feel like you can contact somebody, like go on our website, do the find a specialist, find somebody, and I feel like that's an instant connection. Like it validates me when I call Dr. Grantham or Dr. Barris. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts on it? And it's instantly like, yeah, I have that extra couple of minutes to give up time because I realize that this person has the same goal that I do, and that's putting the patient first and foremost. And we strive for that by getting certified, which isn't required. We know that. We don't need to do this. It's a voluntary thing, putting, you know, your expertise out there for the patient to know what's best for them.
Great. Thank you for that. We have another question here from Lori. She asks, as an RN, do you know of any additional wound care opportunities?
Lori, do you mean other certifications or areas for education, or what? You can, I don't know if you guys can speak in this or if it's silent or what, but if you want to ask.
Yeah, I think we just have to, it's just the chat for now.
Okay.
Yeah, so Laurie, if you want to give us a little bit more detail there on your question, we'd be happy to answer. And again, we have a few more minutes here. So if anybody else has any questions they'd like to ask our ABWM board members, please feel free to ask.
Any independent area? I'll take a stab at Lori's question. I'm not sure. again, I don't want to speak ill of any other certification, so I won't. Like, I think that it's wonderful that people want to be certified in anything. There are other certifications for nurses. I know there's various ones. Wound ostomy continence nursing obviously is one that is well known and is very well respected certification as well. To be honest, I don't know much about any of the other certifications, if that's where your question is going. I do know in terms of, if you're talking about independent areas, meaning areas for skills, advancement, practice, stuff like that, one of the options for kind of finding some of those resources might be a referral over towards our foundation to look at some references. I'm not sure if that's where you're going with that or not, but that might be a good resource to look at if you're interested in study options and whatnot.
Yeah, and if you're looking for the ABWM Foundation, I believe they are listed in a different section of, they're not an exhibitor for WoundCon, but they're in the organizations page, the organizations and foundations page, and you can find a link to their website there and you'll be able to see all of their resources. Another question here from Kelly. How do I find a wound certification course to take before trying to test for the certification? Any ideas? I guess to answer that, as we said, we don't endorse any particular wound certification courses. We are just a exam and certifying body. So it's really up to you to choose a course that is suited to your needs and the areas that you need to cover. But I don't know if the board members have anything else they'd like to add to that.
I will add to that, and I'm going to give you guys like an insight as to why we're trying to walk this tightrope and not answer that. We are 100% to be compliant with our NCCA accreditation to keep our exam certification separate from our test prep. So we don't want to say, here's a course, take this, study this, and here's your stamp because you got it. So we don't have any part of the role in the education component to say, like, here's the course we put on, take that and you pass. We do have a foundation arm associated with us though, and the difference being no one on the foundation is voting on our test and they can't be on the exam committee. They don't have access to our actual exam. So that is a reference though that you can look at, and they don't specifically say, yes, this is the course, but they do have options. There are some courses that are recommended, some study materials that they provide. Some, actually, there's even some videos posted on there that might be helpful. Okay, but that's why it might sound like we're trying to walk a tightrope, because we really are trying to not say, you know, there's multiple ways. I didn't take a course, for example. When I took it, I studied textbooks and journal articles and things along those lines. Granted, I'm not sure if there was one. I don't remember when the first like prep courses in person started. But I don't know, and I don't know if they're in this course, if anyone is advertising at WoundCon or not.
I want to add to that, Ed. I also didn't take a course, and again, I don't know if there were any 10 years ago, but I think anybody who has substantial experience in wound care, who keeps up to date weekly, monthly on the journal articles and has a couple of textbooks, I would think that generally such a person should be able to pass the test. Again, the tests aren't trying to trick anybody. The examinations are just trying to document that you have that base knowledge. And I think that comes from experience and reading.
What I will say is people that take the course, I think we can look at it and there's almost two groups of people that take the course. There's one that go to a course, like an in-person weekend course, with the idea that that's going to prepare them for the test. They don't do well. The ones who do really well are the ones going to the course at the end of their study preparation. And they're studying and then they go to the course and like, I want to make sure I can put all the pieces together. And it's kind of the culmination of their studying. Those people seem to do well. Okay, so you are not going to do well studying for this test in a weekend. It's not that easy.
No.
Whenever I prepare for the exam, I did find the foundation website and utilize the materials from there. And I can say that I continue to use those materials as a resource even after I completed the exam. So they're very good.
Right, yeah, and I put the ABWM Foundation website there in the chat as well, if anybody wants to refer back to that afterwards. Great, okay, so we're coming to the end of our time. I have a quick little poll that I would like our attendees to answer, so I'm going to launch that now. So it's, do you plan on applying for your CWCA, CWS, or CWSP certification at some point in 2021? And the results are coming in. So we have quite a few yeses and a few maybes. Great. Okay, well, that's great to know. Thanks. Great. Well, that's all that we have time for today. So thanks so much for coming to our session and for all of your great questions. Thank you especially to our ABWM board members for participating. I think this has been a really informative session for everybody. Just as a reminder, this session has been recorded and we'll be making it available on demand in the ABWM virtual booth over the course of the next week during the on-demand portion of the WoundCon conference. So if you'd like to refer back to any of the questions that we covered here today, you can easily do that.
And Quiva, what if folks have questions afterwards that they think of that they didn't ask? What do they do?
Absolutely. So we would encourage you, if you've any questions, to send us an email to our info@abwmcertified.org email address. Our staff are very responsive, so we'll get back to you immediately if you've any questions at all. So I'll put that in the chat here again. So it's info@abwmcertified.org. Yep. And then sort of as a next step for those of you who are planning on sitting for your exam, applying for your exam next year, make sure to check out the applications section of our booth, and you can download the candidate handbooks and exam applications for each of our 3 exams there. And those handbooks contain lots of information about the exam, the process for applying. We have content outlines, so those are really worth grabbing and downloading before you finish up at the conference today. And finally, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can also subscribe to our newsletter for the most up-to-date information on ABWM. So thank you all and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks guys, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.